Hey everyone, and welcome. So, today I want to continue our conversation about the source of evil. Therefore, this is going to be part 2 of this topic in question. Now, before we begin, I have a few things that I want to talk about. The first thing is that I am not a native English speaker. English is not my first language, and I pretty much learn English all by myself. So if my English isn't perfect, or if I make any mistakes, then I want to apologize beforehand. The second thing that I want to say is that all the things that I'm going to say in this video, everything that I'm going to talk about in this video, these are my own thoughts, my own reflections. It's the way I see things, it's the way I reflect about these things, and how I present these concepts in question. So you should never feel pressured, or you should never feel like you should agree with anything that I'm saying or I'm going to say and talk about in this video. You always have your own mind, you always have your own intellect, you always have you yourself, and you can always choose to believe whatever you want, right? And finally, the last thing that I want to say before I begin, just as I have already pointed out, this is going to be a continuation of the prior video that I made about this topic at hand, essentially being part 2 of this topic. So if by chance you are watching this video and you haven't watched part 1, then I would highly suggest that you do so you can have a better understanding of all my meanings. And also, if you want, and if you feel like perhaps doing it, then I would also suggest for you to watch all these other videos, these reflection videos that I'm posting on the channel, and so that you could have a better understanding of not only the topic of this video at hand, but all of my meanings that I will probably be referring to in this video one way or another. I'm doing these reflection videos in an episodic format, not too long but not too short. So if you feel like doing it, then I would highly suggest that you do so that then you can have a better understanding of all these concepts that I'm bringing and that I'm talking about. Alright? So with all that out of the way, shall we get started? So at the end of the last video that I talked about, or part 1 that I talked about the source of evil, I came to the conclusion that, well, first I talk a little bit about human beings and if they are good and if they are evil. And this is a topic that I have already made on my channel. I made a whole video just about this topic at hand. And then I came to the conclusion that human beings are not inherently evil, that human beings are the opposite of that they are inherently good. And if you feel like you want to hear how I came to that conclusion, then I would advise you to at least watch that other video where I talk about human beings and if they are good and if they are evil. But just as I said, I came to the conclusion that human beings are not inherently evil, that they are in fact inherently good. Very, very, very good, in fact. But I also came to the conclusion that human beings, although they are inherently good, they can be easily corrupted. That human beings can have everything about them, their mind, their body, their soul, all of that can be corrupted and even easily corrupted. But then here comes the question, which I also talked about in the last video or in part 1 that I made before this one, that says or that asks a basic question. And what is the question? It's actually pretty simple. You see, if human beings are not evil or are not inherently evil because they are in fact inherently good, but they can also be easily corrupted, then here comes the question. Where does the source of corruption comes from? Where does the source of evil that brings this corruption comes from? And this is a question that I asked in the last video, right, in part 1. And there are many who would look at the scenario, would analyze the scenario, and would come to the conclusion that there will always be human beings that are evil. That although you have human beings being inherently good and everything about them is good, you would always have human beings that are evil and that seek to do evil, and that these human beings themselves are the ones that corrupt the others. And you could also come to the conclusion that it is not the human beings themselves, but the world and the environment that we live in, all these systems that we live here in this world, that these systems or the world that we live in, that these are the sources of corruption and of evil themselves. So, for a little example here, so it's a bit easier to understand, let's say that you have a child that is inherently good, a child that is not inherently evil, but that child may be inserted into an environment of pure evil. Like this child, for whatever reason, grows up in an environment of nothing but evil. And so this child, who are inherently good, after a while, because they were born or they were surrounded by an environment of evil, then this child would eventually, or perhaps not even eventually, it might happen pretty soon, this child might become evil themselves, or himself or herself, because that child was born in an environment of evil, and then this child became evil as well, as a result, as a reflection of the environment that this child lived. So there are many who believe that if we have a source of evil, then this source of evil would be the world itself, the world itself that we live, the environment itself that we live, and all the people in our world that live within these same systems or environment of evil and corruption. Now, to me, whenever I reflect about this topic in itself, or whenever I reflect about this explanation in itself, that although human beings are inherently good, they are easily corrupted, and it is the world that corrupts people, that we have the world that is the source of evil, and all of the environments composed of human beings that corrupt others and can make even the most pure, good human beings out there become evil. I myself, whenever I think about this topic, I always come to the conclusion that this answer, although it makes sense, and although it could very well fit and it could very well be the truth, to me, whenever I think about that, it's like I'm thinking about something that isn't wrong, that this fact or this explanation may very well be the truth, but to me it's kind of like it's a half truth. It's although it is the truth, it's not the whole story, that there is more to it. So what I'm saying here, what I'm trying to say is that I agree with this point of view. I agree with the point of view that although humanity and human beings can be inherently good, they are easily corrupted, and that it is the world itself and the environments that we live in this world that provide this corruption and that corrupt the human beings. Although I can agree to that, I also think that there's more to it. Like it's not just that. To me, it feels like there is much more than that. And you could ask me, why do I think it this way, right? Why do I not agree with that point of view in full? And why do I think there is more to it? Why do I have the impression or the perception that there is more than just the world and the environment that we live that corrupts human beings? Why do I think, or why do I believe there is more to it? Now, this is something that I have already talked about in part 1, so I won't have the time here to explain all my meanings. So here is where I invite you to watch part 1 again if you haven't done so already. But essentially what I mean is that in our world, you can always see or perceive an environment of evil when there is no need for evil. What do I mean by that? I mean that there are circumstances and there are spaces or some points in time in human history where things were good, where things were very good, where you had a more of a feeling of unity, where people were united. And as they were united and as this sense of unified, then you also have this sense of people being together and wanting to build a world, a better world together, a peaceful world, a world where everything and everyone would have it good. There are points in time where events like this happen, and this is also a topic that I talk about in other of my videos, but to me there were moments in time where things were good, where everything was good, and there was always the hope and the desire and the prayers to create a better world where people were united and people wanted to unite towards building that better world. And even in these cases, even in these situations, even when things were so very good, there were at these moments, in these periods of times throughout human history, even in these scenarios, you also had a lot of evil. Like, evil never truly went away from humanity and from society. Evil was always there at all times. No matter how far back you go in human history, even when things in points in time are very good, even then you still had a lot of evil in the world, and a lot of people who wanted to do evil, a lot of people who breathe and live for the evil, that they themselves never want things to be good, and even when things are good, they would work so that they would not be good anymore. So you'd have people, evil people, that would work for the world to become not better, but worse. I truly believe that there are people in this world, and I'm not alone in this thought, but I truly believe that there are people who live and breathe for the evil, and they want the worst and not the best for the world. They want the world to become worse and worse and worse, to possibly the worst outcome available or possible. There are people in this world who are like that only concern themselves with evil. And even when things are good, or even when things were good, and even when people wanted to unite and come together to build a better world, these people, these evil people, would then appear in order to invert things, in order to not allow a good environment to ever arise. And these people, these evil people, they are not random at the world. They are people in very, very high positions of power, of money and control. These people who want the world to become worse and not better, in many cases, if not all cases, they have a tremendous amount of power in the upper echelons of society, and also in control in the whole world. So in my last video, in part 1, I talked about this concept of how they basically have, I compared it to a company or a organization. A company or organization of evil with many employees, and that these employees would be located all over the world in order to control things, in order to manipulate things, in order to blackmail, in order to literally obtain control, so that these people in these high positions of power in our world would then be able to control and follow the objectives of this evil company or this evil organization. And as I compared it to a company, as I compare it to an organization, but in this case an evil company and an evil organization, then you always have the figure or the person or the being at the very top, right? Essentially as the CEO, right, of the company, the president of the evil company or the evil organization. And this CEO, this person at the very top of this evil company or this evil organization, the president of this company, I came to the conclusion in my other video in part 1 of this topic, I came to the conclusion that this CEO, this president of this evil company, that they themselves may not even be human, that they themselves may not even be a human being. And so I myself, I gave a name to this entity that is at the very top of this company or this organization or this evil company and this evil organization. And this being, this entity, this evil being that is at the very top, I gave the name for it as a puppet master, as in the master of all puppets that control the world, that controls this evil organization, and this evil organization seeks to control the world. And so at the end of the day, it's like they are all puppets. This evil organization and all of the people that control the world with the help of the acolytes or the employees of this evil organization, that they are all puppets. They become puppets of this puppet master. That this puppet master has control over the world, and as the puppet master moves its countless fingers, then the puppets that are attached to a string on each of the puppet master's fingers, each of the puppets would then dance according to the puppet master wills. So as the puppet master moves its fingers, then the puppets will all dance at his or its command. But then comes the idea again, here comes the concept again. Why do I believe that an organization or a company of evil exists, and why do I not believe the narrative that the world and the environment that we live itself is evil and corrupted, and then corrupts all the other humans in the world, the human beings in the world? And as I said, it's not just me that is coming to the conclusion. It's not just me that is coming to the conclusion that there is more to this source of evil. And why is it that is not just me, and exactly what do I mean by this? And the answer, as I have already pointed out, is that we have too much evil in our world. We have a lot of evil in our world. And even in moments when things are good, even in moments when things are great, even in moments where people are united and want to build something better for everyone in the world, these are the moments that this organization, this company of evil, these are the moments that they work the most to make sure that humanity does not follow a path of good, but that instead they go towards a path of evil. It's like an inversion. It inverts the values and the morality and the desires that people have. Essentially, it's like if the world wanted to and everyone in the world wanted to create something good, but then something happens. Something stops them. Something stops people from doing all the good things that they want to do. Something literally stops them from doing that. Something literally stops people from trying to achieve that. And instead, they invert those values. This company and this organization of evil, they work their best to make sure that the world becomes the worst. And if you're thinking, no, that's not possible, this is impossible, because human beings are inherently evil and not inherently good, therefore they will always want evil and not good, then here's my counter argument to this idea. Why, when moments where things are so very good, when there are moments that things are so very great, and when there are moments that people are so very, very good, why is it then that you always have people that are working against that wants things to be worse and not the best? And then you could tell me, oh, that's because these people were already evil to begin with. These people who want evil were already corrupted to begin with, and so they will always seek to do evil and not good. And since these people, these evil people, in many cases may be in a high position of power in society, then they themselves cannot allow good to happen, because they only want the worst outcome, because by creating the worst outcome, then it would benefit them. They would be able to obtain more riches, more money, more resources, more power, by making sure that the world does not go in a good direction but in a bad, very bad direction. Then these people that are on the upper echelons of society and that have a fierce control over the world, then these people would seek to do evil and would seek for the world to become worse, because these people that are in high positions of power in the world, they see it as a chance for more power, for more money, for more resources, for more control, to be able to obtain more and more power for themselves. And so you could come to the conclusion that there is no company of evil, there is no organization of evil, there is no puppet master, because our world does not need that. Our world does not need a company of evil. Our world does not need an organization of evil. Our world does not need a puppet master, because our world itself is already evil, has always been evil, and will forever seek to do evil, with or without the presence of this company or this organization of evil. And to me, I can of course understand this point of view. Many people do believe that human beings are evil, or even if they believe that human beings are inherently good, that there are many who became corrupted and became became evil. Even if they were inherently good, they became corrupted and then they became evil. And that these people, in most cases, may be in the upper echelons of society and may have a great influence and a great control in the world. So there are many who believe that these people in high positions of power, that they were already evil to begin with, that there is no need for a company or an organization of evil, because they themselves were already evil, that these people in high positions of power were already evil to begin with, and that they don't need an organization or a company of evil, because they themselves were already evil and will already seek to do evil, and will already want to do evil, and will want the world to become the worst possible scenario for their own profit. Because if the world goes down, then maybe they can make more money out of it. They can obtain more power, more control, more resources. They can obtain everything that they want. So there is no need for a company of evil. There is no need for an organization of evil. There is no need for a puppet master, because the world itself is already heading, or has already been heading, toward the worst possible outcome. No matter what society or people or human beings want, the world has always been heading towards evil. The world has always been heading towards its own downfall. The world has always been heading to perhaps its own damnation. So there is no need for an evil corporation. There is no need for an evil organization. There is no need for an evil company. There is no need for this puppet master who controls everyone and everything, because the world itself was always evil, or the people in high positions of power were always evil, and will always forever want the world to become the worst possible scenario and never the best possible scenario. But is that really the truth? Do we really not have an organization of evil? Do we really not have a company of evil? Do we really not have a figure of a puppet master who is controlling the world? Is it really just a product, or the state of the world today, is it really just a product of we human beings ourselves, without any influence, without any presence of evil itself, corrupting human beings every step of the way? Is that really the truth? Do you really not have forces in our world today, evil forces in our world today, that is influencing, that is corrupting, and making others that were inherently good making human beings that were inherently good become evil? Is there really no presence in our world, no evil presence in our world that is corrupting human beings? Are all the things that are happening in the world today and the direction that the world is going today, all the bad things that are happening in the world today, are they really only the products of human beings and human beings alone? That we have no source of evil in our world that facilitates or influences or makes sure that a good human being becomes corrupted and therefore evil? Is there really nothing in our world, nothing besides human beings themselves? Does this source of evil that I'm talking about in this video, does the source of evil do not exist? Is there no source of evil at all? What do we have today? All the things that we have today, all the bad and horrible things that we have today, are they the products of human beings and only human beings and nothing but human beings all along? Is there really no source of evil because there is no source of evil and only human beings in the end? Is that really the case here? And to me, if you ask me this question, you see, for the longest time in my life, I believed that narrative. I believed the narrative that there is nothing beyond humanity, that there is nothing beyond we humans within our mortal existence and our mortal bodies or vessels, that we human beings, that all of us are and all of us have always been or have always lived by our own accord, by our own desires, and everything that happens in the world that we live is a result of our direct influence as human beings. You see, for the longest time, I believed the narrative that there is nothing beyond human beings, the narrative that we are all that exists in our world. For the longest part of my life, or for a long time in my life, I believed that concept. I believed this idea. I believed this explanation that was given to us. An explanation that there is no beyond, that there is nothing after our lives and after our mortal existence, our mortal vessels, that there is only humans and that there is only the human world and that there is nothing anywhere, nowhere besides human beings. For the longest part in my life, or for a very long time in my life, I believed that narrative. I truly believed it. But as time went on and I became more serious about these studies of the world, these studies of human beings, these studies of the nature of human beings, after going more in depth into those, I myself started to question these things. I started to question this narrative. I started to question this explanation that was given to us about that there is nothing in our world but humanity and human beings themselves, that there is nothing beyond, that we are all that there is. And of course I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong in these concepts that I'm bringing here, in these concepts that I'm talking about, and at the end of the day, we humans are at a fault for everything that we do, and there is no presence or no influence in our world because there is nothing beyond us ourselves. I could always be wrong, right? I could always be wrong in my ideas, in my concepts, and in my own questionings about the world and about human beings. Maybe there is no beyond. Maybe there is no afterlife. Maybe there is no higher influence upon our world and upon the state of the world. Maybe I am wrong, and in fact this explanation about the world being only composed of human beings and no influence for anything beyond human beings, and that everything we do in this world and all these bad and evil practices that we see in our world, that they are only the work of human beings themselves without an influence of something else. There's always the chance that I could be wrong, right? But I'll be honest with you, or with all of you who may perhaps be listening to me right now. You see, as I've grown older and I've started, as I started to study more about this topic, to me it feels undeniable. To me it feels like there's something more, that there's something else, that there's something more going on here. And why do I think about it this way? Because there's too much evil. I see so much evil all around me. No matter where I go, no matter where I look, I see evil. There's too much evil in our world. And the evil is only growing more and more and more and more. And this evil, this source of evil, as it grows and as it becomes more powerful, then this evil starts to threaten everything and everyone. Even the people who are in high positions of power, even the people who believe that they can obtain more profit, that they can obtain more money, that they can obtain more control and more power with all of these evil practices that they might be doing or they might be influencing in the world. Even those people who are in a high position of power, even they themselves may not be fully protected from this evil. The evil is so great, the evil is growing so much, the evil is achieving such high stakes, that to me there's a very good chance, or there's a very high chance that no one will be safe from this evil, and especially the evil that is to come if the worst possible scenario starts to happen. Then to me it feels like no one will be safe. No matter how far up you are in the upper echelons of society, no one will be safe. To me, the evil in our world is so great, the evil in our world that we see is so grand, that the impact of this evil may be so devastating upon humanity and upon human beings and on our world itself. The damage may be so great, the damage caused by this evil can be so great in our world, in everyone that lives in our world, and all the human beings that live in our world, that quite possibly nobody may be safe from this evil. And then you think to yourself, how can these people in high positions of power that control and influence the world, how can they not see what may be coming ahead with all the evil that we have in our world and all the evil that is growing in our world? How can someone not see that, especially if you are in a high position of power? How can someone not look at that and start to feel afraid, to feel threatened by it, to feel as though they should not try their hardest to make sure that the world becomes the worst? How can the people in high positions of power not see that? How can they not see that the world is heading towards a very bad outcome and not a good outcome, and that they themselves, even the people in high positions of power, their families, their loved ones, all that they care about, how can they not see that even they themselves may be engulfed or swallowed from this evil itself, that their lives, their existence in this world, that it can all come crashing down too if the world truly goes to the worst possible scenario. How can the people in high positions of power not see that? How can people in the high positions of power believe that they are so very well protected that this evil, no matter how great it becomes, how can they think, how can these people in the high positions of power believe that they will not be affected in any way by it? How are they not able to think of that? How are they not able to come to that conclusion, when that conclusion to me is so very, very obvious that even a child could come to the same conclusion? And the idea is, it's actually really simple. If the world goes to hell, and if the world becomes hell itself, then no one is safe, right? If the world becomes hell itself, then there's no way that anyone will be saved or fully protected from the hell. And even if you are protected, even if you are able to protect yourself from the hell, you are still living in this world. You are still living in our world. You are still living in an environment of evil. And unless you find a way to get out from this world, unless you find a way to maybe go to space or something like that, in order to truly get out of the world, so that all the evil that becomes of our world, it wouldn't affect you, or it wouldn't affect your family and your loved ones. But even then, you see, technology has advanced, but we don't have enough technology yet to brave space, right? To create like spaceships and just go to other universes, on other galaxies and things like that. Technology is improving, no doubt about that, but we haven't reached that level yet, right? We haven't reached the level of spaceship that will go towards other universes and other galaxies and just live life in space. We haven't reached that level of technology yet. And so, in many cases, people may be still trapped in our world. People may be still trapped by everything that happens in our world. And people may not necessarily be able to flee our world, to go away from our world, to live their lives elsewhere, in another planet, for example. And you see, the evil in our world, it's growing so much at such a fast pace. It's so fast, evil is growing so fast, that it may very well become so great and so damaging that it will, if the worst possible outcome happens, it might affect the entire world and everyone that lives in our world and all human beings that live in our world, and that no one it will be safe. No human being will be safe in our world, especially depending on how bad things get. And even if they try, or even if evil tries to create, to do the perhaps the more desperate attempts in order to solve the situation. For example, maybe trying to use weapons of mass destruction to really make the world, or make our world, not go towards the worst possible outcome. To me, even then, it might not work out. Why? It's actually pretty simple. We have billions on top of billions of human beings living in our world, and the evil is growing so very large that is affecting the lives of all these billions on top of people, or billions on top of billions of people in our world. And then here comes the obvious question, right? Here comes the obvious scenario of a worst possible outcome. You see, if things get really bad, then all of these billions and billions of people in our world will also be affected by how bad things get and how evil things become. And evil begets evil. Chaos begets chaos. Wars begets wars. And if all of a sudden you have billions on top of billions in our world who have become evil or have no other choice in their life but to do evil and to do evil practices just to try and survive, then that's not a very good scenario, is it? I mean, we're talking about billions on top of billions of people here in our world who might revolt, who might create chaos all around. And how do you solve this problem? Perhaps someone would look at the scenario and they'll say, oh, just get rid of them. Just get rid of all the billions on top of billions of people in our world who are causing problems, who are making the scenario and making everything more chaotic. Just get rid of them, right? Many could come to that conclusion, but even then, to me, this solution, quote-unquote solution, this outcome, this attempt to try and solve this problem, to me, the chances of it succeeding, the chances of everything succeeding in this case are very, very low. Because again, we're talking about billions on top of billions of people in our world. So if you try to get rid of them all at once, for example, then the consequences of that can be so dire, the consequences of that can be so great, the consequences of that can be so very bad and evil that it might bring the whole world down. I mean, just think about it. In order to get rid of so many people in our world, you would probably have to do some drastic measures. You'd probably have to do things that are very, very extreme. And those things can have a great impact in our world and everyone that lives in our world, to the point that it might make the world itself go down. But then you think to yourself, oh no, but maybe humanity can develop weapons of mass destruction that will only get rid of the people and not affect the world, so that everyone and everything that remains will be saved, right? But that's where you are wrong. If you have this assumption, then to me this assumption itself is very, very wrong. Why? For a very simple reason. In this example that I gave you, in this very small example that I gave you, which, by the way, I hope it doesn't happen, but things are getting so very, very bad, things are getting so very, very evil that who knows where it will stop, right? But even in a scenario like that, you're basically talking about genocide. Genocide of billions on top of billions of people in our world. And how is that a solution to anything? If you cause genocide on that level, on things that are so very, very vast and so very, very bad, then there's nothing good that can come out of it. You see, you can never create something good out of such a horrible, horrible outcome. You can't hope to create something good with literally mountains and mountains and mountains of people who may have died for this outcome. And that's not just me talking about it. History has shown that too. It never ends well. Whenever you have something or someone with ideas that are so very drastic that they do not want to create something good for everyone, that they instead want to create the worst possible outcome and things to be so very evil, history has shown that you can never create something good out of all of that chaos. You see, whenever humanity bands together, whenever humanity unifies, and whenever humanity unites, human beings, they are so very inherently good, tremendously good in fact, and so very bright and so very smart, that whenever they gather, whenever they unify, whenever they become united, then there is no problem that they cannot solve. And here in our world, we have billions on top of billions of human beings. And that's not a problem. That can very well be a very, very good thing. You can create more things, you can build more things, you can go to other planets, you can use science to really make a civilization or a whole space, depending on how vast and how advanced science and technology becomes. That there is no stopping human beings from achieving such high, such grand results that nothing and anyone will ever be able to do anything bad for them ever again. The scenario of creating an utopia, and if you don't know what an utopia is basically heaven, right? Heaven on earth on Christianity terms. The idea or the concept or the possibility of creating something so very, very good is tremendously high. Humanity can do anything whenever they band together, whenever they unite. So why is it that we have so much evil in our world, and why is it that the evil only grows when humanity has the capabilities of creating things that are so very great, things that are so very grand for everyone? And you see, to me it's undeniable that a source of evil exists. It's undeniable that a source of evil not only exists, but wants the worst possible outcome for everything and everyone, all the humans, all the time, all at once. To me, it's undeniable that something like that has to exist, because literally today we are walking a path of tremendously destruction, of tremendously evil. And this evil can engulf and swallow everything and everyone, and no one will be safe from this evil. Therefore, a source of evil must exist. A source of evil must exist that literally wants to swallow it whole, to swallow all of humanity into that evil. So literally, to take it all, to take all of humanity. So the more I study about it, the more I think that there's something there. Because if humanity comes to the obvious conclusion that they might be heading towards its own downfall and towards its own damnation, then the chances of humanity banding together and not wanting that possible outcome to happen is very, very high. And so the only possible solution for evil to have what it wants is for evil itself to exist, and for evil itself to want that worst possible outcome. That's why I keep thinking that there is something there. That's why I keep believing that there is something more, that there is some kind of evil force in our world that truly operates in the shadows, corrupting in the shadows, and wanting the worst possible outcome to happen. And you see, I could go on talking about this, and I totally do want to go on talking about this, but we are already approaching an hour here, so I think this is probably where I'm going to end the video for now. But I will probably, or is my intent to make a part 3 of this video, of this topic at hand, and continue this conversation, so that maybe we, as we reflect together, maybe we can come to the conclusion if this source of evil really exists, and what is the source of evil, and about this evil company too, this evil organization, and about the figure of this puppet master as well. And I know that I promised in part 1 that I will talk more about the puppet master here in this video, but there's just so much to discuss about this topic that I wasn't able to talk more about this figure of this puppet master in this video here. But I do intend to talk about it and to try and reach that conclusion the more we proceed. But I think I'm going to leave that for part 3 of this topic at hand, about where lies the source of evil. And in this video, I'm actually doing something a little bit different. As you probably have seen along on the video, I have started to play a new game, right? I started to play Zelda Twilight Princess, but not just any Zelda Twilight Princess. I'm playing a modded version, a version that is called Revamped. And I'm actually recording this audio before I play the game itself, so I hope the whole recording goes well. But what I'm going to try to do here is something a little bit different. I was thinking of, as I play this game along with you while presenting these ideas to you, I would end the recording at more or less around an hour, which we are already approaching, and then I would give more of the playing session for everyone to watch if they want, and to play alongside with me if they desire. So essentially what I'm trying to do, or what I'm trying to create here in the channel, would be more or less an hour of conversation, then about 30 minutes more of gameplay. So it would be more or less a session of gameplay of an hour and a half, and during an hour I would do a conversation, a reflection, and then you would get 30 more minutes of playtime, of the recorded playtime session. And why do I want to do it this way, you might ask me? And you see, to me, it's because games have always been a source of comfort for me. Whenever things don't really go well, whenever things go pretty bad, and whenever the scenario doesn't really show any possible good outcome because it keeps only getting worse, then games to me have always been a source of comfort. Essentially comfort during hard times, during bad times. And you see, this is more or less kind of the feeling that I wanted to try and bring to the channel as well. Not only would you get these reflections, but you would also get a little bit more of gameplay for you to play along or watch along with me as we all go in this journey together, and have a little bit of comfort together while enjoying a game. And in this case I chose Zelda Twilight Princess, and you see, I only played this game only once. I actually played it all the way back, like 20 years back now, when it first got released. It released first on the Wii version, and I played the Wii version first, but I never played the GameCube version. I never played the GameCube version of Zelda Twilight Princess. And what I'm playing today is the GameCube version, and it's also a modded version too, called Revamped. And I heard really great things about this mod version. Essentially, it's a mod that changes mechanics, and that makes the whole adventure, that makes the journey much more difficult and much more challenging. And I heard that it's really fun, because not only makes it all more challenging, but it's also kind of a sense of more challenging but also fair. So for those that try their best to become more skilled at the game, then they would find it more balanced, although more difficult, but fair as well. So essentially it's like Zelda Twilight Princess, but in hard mode. And I kind of like that. I kind of wanted to try it. I don't know how well it will be actually, because I heard that it can be quite brutal sometimes, but I still really like that idea. It reminds me of Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest, which Master Quest was a version that is more difficult than Ocarina of Time. So I kind of wanted to test this out, test this modded version, this revamp, and see if it's really cool. And hey, it will also be my first time playing the GameCube version too. So not only did I enjoy playing the Wii version 20 years ago when I was a child, when I was playing the Wii version all those years ago, but now I get to play the GameCube version too, which is different from the Wii, because the Wii uses motion controls, but the GameCube only uses the GameCube controller, or at least that's as far as I know, that it only uses the GameCube controller. And I actually really like the GameCube controller as well. But for now, this is where I'm going to end the video, but by all means you are always welcome to watch the rest of the gameplay together with me. And if you want, if you like, you can also leave in the comments all the topics and the discussions that we had today. and you can leave your own opinions, your own ideas, your own concepts, and everything that you believe. If you agree with me or if you don't agree with me, then you can leave it all on the comments, and I'll be very, very happy to read them all as I try to make more of these videos and reflections all along. But for now, this is where I'm going to end the video. But thank you very much for watching, truly, thank you. And if you stayed up until the very end, then I thank you again. And hopefully we'll soon see each other again very, very soon. Thank you again. Goodbye.
Hey!
There!